We're back. Well, I say we're back. It's pretty much going to be mostly me in this video, putting together my engine for my all-wheel drive swapped GTI, which you guys have seen on the channel before. This is my daily driver. I'll link to the old video when we did an all-wheel drive swap in it. But speaking of all-wheel drive swaps, we have two others in here. This one we're going to hopefully wrap up in the next week. This is a Mark 6 GTI, big turbo setup. I'll link the video above. This one did just over 400 wheel as a front wheel drive car. We're now converting it to all wheel drive. And the long time car on the channel is finally clean. It's driven over here. It's real close to getting on the dyno now. Just had it detailed, so it's looking fresh. We have to do some modifications to the catch can, and I've decided I think I'm going to put a legitimate blow-off valve on it instead of running the diverter valve. I'll link this video above as well. There's a long time, or video series I should say, there's a lot of videos on that car. But this video is about building the 07K for my car. And with that, we're going to have some information about the turbo kit as well. We've had lots of people asking. The issue is that I wanted to really put the thing through its paces first. However, we're a little bit delayed on all that. We did some renos and stuff like that. Either way, let's get to building this engine, and then probably midway in the video somewhere I'll probably start chatting about the turbo kit itself. So let's get to building the engine. Let me see what you're working with here. Alright, I got most of this cleaned up, honed, but as I was cleaning up the deck surface, there's a couple little things that I'm not super happy about. So since we're this far, I mean the crank's out of it and everything, as we're switching the crank, since we're this far with it now, I'm going to pull the rest of the pieces off, and it's going to get a haircut. That way I don't feel like I'm worried about the odd imperfections and stuff that I see in it. And it'll just be fresh for the new build. So typically with using stock size pistons, as long as the deck looks good, I'll just use it. However, this one isn't 100%, so it'll get a haircut, it'll get cleaned up, and we'll put the new crank in it. Everything's kind of waiting to go in now. I got a DAZA pulley that needs to be modified to go on it. The rods and pistons, I still got to gap them and stuff like that, but we'll get this thing together. Another thing I'll mention for guys building these in the future, I probably mentioned, hopefully at the beginning of this video, that I was switching to the forged crank. So this crank here is the forged crank, this is the cast crank. The cast crank uses a sprocket like this, and the forged crank uses a sprocket like this, which means the chain that would have came on the engine with the cast crank isn't going to work. So that needs to be swapped out. The oil pump sprocket needs to be swapped out. And I believe there was one other thing that needs to be swapped out as well. What am I missing? Oh yeah, and this piece that I just took off needs to be swapped out. So you will need all of this stuff. This idler roller sprocket piece needs to have the sprocket, the proper sprocket engagement for the chain that fits this sprocket. So if you're changing the crank, you need the crank, you need a new chain, you need a new oil pump sprocket, and you need this idler sprocket as well in order to make it work. All right, and there it is, completely apart. Every single thing is off it now. Bare block. Okay, before we get too far with this thing, I wanted to just chat about the turbo kit for a second. We've had a lot of people message us about it, And trust me, we're trying hard to get this thing released and completely together. One of the holdups was building my engine so that we could show you kind of the full potential of it. So the kit is kind of designed for a stock engine to make 350 to 400 wheel horsepower. Just getting into some of the details here. 350 to 400 wheel horsepower stock engine. That's what the kit was kind of designed for. However, we want to showcase its potential. So with my engine, with a bigger turbocharger, bigger injectors, most of the rest of the kit is going to be exactly the same, aside from the intake manifold. But everything else, manifold, downpipe, intercooler, all that stuff is going to be the same, intake. We want to showcase kind of what it can really do if somebody has a built engine and wants to push it. With that said, we wanted to test out a completely stock engine vehicle, which I have here, that we were going to chuck the turbo kit on, and I wanted to test out what it can do on a built engine. The built engine became priority. Sure, we could have just brought the other car in and just tested it out on a stock vehicle, but again, this is my summer daily car that I drive, and I kind of wanted to get this finished so that I can enjoy that this summer. So for those that have followed along for a long time and you're interested in this turbo kit, you can see from the caliber of cars that we build and how long we've been doing this that we understand what it takes to build a higher horsepower Volkswagen or Audi. We build a lot of engines, we do a lot of custom turbo kits, and we do bolt-on turbo kits quite a bit as well, as you could see from some of the Mark 6s and Mark 7s that we do, that we have a lot of experience making power with this. We understand what it takes to make good power. So with that information, if you're interested in the kit, before we show you it actually in action, I do know that it's going to make the power that I say it's going to make. My engine, I don't know what it's really going to make. I don't know how far I want to push it, but it should make 600 pretty easily on ethanol with the turbo setup and stuff that I got. But the goal again for the turbo kit was more so stock engine with some room to grow for those that maybe want to build an engine down the road. If you're interested in doing, the way we're going to do it is we're going to do a pre-order. And we didn't want to release the pre-order until we had some data to put out there. But if you're interested based on what you've seen on the channel over the last few years and what we do, drop us an email. I'll get Clayton to put the email on the screen, and you can email us and we'll send you a link and a little bit more detail on what the kit's going to entail for cost, explain some of the things out now based on a lot of you guys in the US, if we did a Pulsar turbo, for example, you're going to get hammered with tariffs. We'll talk to you about a few options in regards to turbos. The turbo range typically that we're going to do, I built the original kit with the G900, G35 900, and a GT 3076. I may mention that in this video, I have no idea, but I know I talked about it at some point. So there is a good range of turbos that will fit on this thing. So like a G660, G770, those are all going to be in around that range that will work on this turbo kit. So we have lots of options in regards to sizing. Again, it's going to depend on what you plan on doing with the engine. If you only ever plan on making 400 wheel horsepower, don't put a G900 on the thing, because you're not going to enjoy what it can potentially do for drivability and spool and stuff like that. I'm rambling about turbo sizing, but my point here is we really wanted to, the goal was to do a pre-order on the kit after we showed you some data. If you're anxious and you want to get in on it early, we're going to do a limited run on a pre-order. And if you are anxious and you want to get in on that before we release the actual results, again, stock engine should make 350 to 400 wheel. Tuning is all going to be, we're going to offer all of that in the package as well. Tuning is going to be through stock ECU, and we're working with Jason at RevMap to do the tuning for Mark 5s, Mark 6s, so that would include Jettas as well. The Passat stuff, I'm not 100% sure yet. I don't know if the kit's going to fit that. However, our focus was mainly on Mark 5, Mark 6, Golf, Jetta. So, if you're interested, I'll get Clayton again to put the email down below. It'll be sales@comotorsports.ca. This is a kind of like a pre-order to the actual pre-order for guys that are super anxious to get on board. Again, we're only going to do a limited run on the pre-order. We have no idea how successful this will be. The kit, we've based it to be as budget friendly as we can without sacrificing the quality that we would do here in-house, meaning this is going to be the exact same kit I'm running on my daily driver. I don't want to have headaches with this thing. I've built a lot of turbo kits. I've seen a lot of homemade budget built turbo kits. I know what fails. I know what to look out for. I know to make sure that certain things need to be done a certain way, certain parts, quality-wise, all of that. I'm doing it on my own daily. I don't want the headaches, and that's the same thing that you guys will be purchasing as well. So, the pricing, all that stuff, we can talk about it if you send us an email. If you're antsy to get on board, let us know. I'm done rambling about it. I did want to talk about it though in this video. So let's get back to building this engine. Okay, we got the forged crank in. We checked all the clearances, bearings. I put a new set of bearings in it. Checked the crank. Everything is good. It's been now torqued down. And this part of it is good to go. We are now to the point of gapping the rings. This is getting a set of JE pistons, a set of CTS rods. I'm gonna do some few things to the valve train as well. I'm gonna change out the valve seals, and I'm going to do a set of valve springs in it also. And I may have exhaust valves for it. I can't remember. It's been so long. I've been hoarding parts for this thing forever. But the next thing really is we got to spend a bunch of time gapping the rings. I'm not going to show you that process. It's just very tedious and long. Maybe I'll set up a time lapse. I don't know. But we got to gap the rings. And then once those are done, we can start installing the rods and pistons or get them together. And I obviously got to check clearances and stuff on the rod bearings. But one big step is done. We got the crank in. It's been a long time because of vacation and all the renos and stuff getting back on this thing, but we're on it, and I'm hopefully going to have this thing done. Not that it matters to you guys because you'll see it all in one video, but I'm hoping to have this thing done by the end of the day tomorrow, at least looking like an engine again. So still got a lot to do, but cranks in. Next are these guys. All right, got all the rings gapped. Compression ring, oil ring, all of them needed to be touched. I have the pistons on the rods. I've done a lot of these pistons over the years, especially JEs. And these clips on these ones cause me an absolute headache to get in for whatever reason on these ones. These are 22 millimeter pins. So essentially this is TTRS rod and piston combo. So now we're going to, everything's been measured up. We're going to start slamming these into the block. And I obviously still got to put all the rings in the proper orientation and everything on the pistons and get them in there. And then we'll do some work on the cylinder head. All right, after a whole bunch of time, bearings are all in, rings are all on, they've been gapped appropriately, they're all orientated as they should, bearings have been checked, we'll start hammering these in the block. Finally get the cylinder head on this thing. I probably said that like 20 times already, but we're ready for it. All right, pistons are in. I've been yammering on about doing that forever. The valve train is all out of the cylinder head, and we already have all the new exhaust valves already lapped. So this is getting a set of SuperTech valve springs and retainers and exhaust valves, stock cams, and we're going to just start putting the cylinder head back together. Oh, I'm doing new valve seals and stuff in it too, but we're going to start putting the cylinder head back together now because that's all been torn apart, and move along with this thing. All right, I can't remember how much I time-lapsed yesterday while I was putting this together. I stayed a little bit late so I could make sure I could finish all the valve install, valve springs, all that. So we did upgraded valve springs, upgraded exhaust valves, and titanium retainers. We are pushing this a little bit for horsepower, and although it's my daily, I will likely do some rolling anti-lag and stuff with it playing around, so that's why we did the exhaust valves on it. So next, lifters and cams. All right, side covers on, cylinder head's on. This isn't the typical way that you would put the cylinder head on these. Usually you'd have the cams and the cam bridge in first before putting the cylinder head on the block with the crank locked, but because of the ARP bolts, it doesn't allow you to get a tool down in there. It's common with the 2-liter TSIs and FSIs as well. When you do ARP bolts, you kind of got to do it a little bit different than you would from factory sort of deal. So if this was standard bolts or head bolts that were going in this, I would have put the cams and the cam bridge on the head first and then put the cylinder head on and then put the bolts in. But with this being head studs, and because of that nut right there, you can't get the tool in there on a bunch of these. So you have to do it this way. Just figured I'd mention that for people following along and they ever plan on building this. It is something that you got to work around when you're doing that. So now the time to get the cams in with the cam bridge and then get it timed up properly. So on my Mark 6 2.5 swap, I'm using a TTRS intake manifold with the JAT or JAAT lower plenum piece, which I probably showed you before. Either way, in order for me to run this, I want to run the 2.5 throttle body on this. And the older TTRS, I think, located the throttle body with a twisted pipe down here, or a piece in between, and the throttle body sat weird, and the new ones sit down further, something like that. Either way, I want to put the throttle body directly on the intake manifold. So we drilled out the holes, nothing lines up, and there's a missing hole in the stock setup. There's only 3 bolts. Everything bolts through the opposite way. It's very confusing how they did it. Either way, I have some plugs now, plug in the holes. We drilled them out. I'm going to weld those in, and I'm going to plug weld the back side, and we'll make this all smooth again, and then we'll redo with, that's just basically a homemade fake template, and we'll drill and tap all the holes out so that this 2.5 07K throttle body will bolt onto it directly. So it'll make service and everything a lot easier down the road. Just gotta do a little bit of extra work right now to make it all fit. Okay, after a little bit longer, we got some more parts bolted onto this thing. So this is an integrated engineering billet valve cover that we just powder coated red. Although this full setup is basically going to be the same turbo kit that we're offering, my goal is to kind of show you the full potential of it. Obviously, it's a built engine. We're going to have larger injectors. We're going to have a bigger turbo than probably what most will get when they order this thing. But one of the other things we're changing is, obviously, I did a TTRS intake manifold. We're using the JAT, J-A-A-T-T, maybe he's the way he spells it, lower intake plenum. So this is a billet plenum that bolts directly to the 07K cylinder head and allows you to use the TTRS plenum. So not for everybody. I just wanted that looks, and I've been trying to put this engine together for probably, or put this package together for probably 5 or 6 years now. So I bought this a very long time ago, and here we are finally getting to put this thing together. So the next thing, we still have a few more things to do with the timing. I'm just waiting a couple more parts. But the next thing that we're going to do is put on the turbocharger. So I'll probably set up the time lapse as I do a little bit of that. What I'm putting on this setup, I have a couple different turbos for options right now, but I think where I've landed is a G30-900. I think I was originally planning, well, not I think, I was originally planning to put a G35-900 on it. I've stepped down on the turbine wheel to hopefully get a little bit more quicker spool out of it. Again, this is just my daily street car, so it doesn't need to make record horsepower numbers or anything like that. I just want a good power band, as good as I can on pump gas, and then we'll have a little bit more fun with it on ethanol. And I'll have this fueling to support running E85 in it as well. But let's set the time lapse up. We'll start putting the turbo on it, and then we'll have almost a complete looking engine. So let's get to it. Turbo's on. This is a, as mentioned, G30-900. I originally built the setup with a G35-900. As you can see, I don't have them side by side, but they're nearly identical to each other in almost every fashion. It's just the turbine wheel on the 30 is smaller, so the turbine housing technically is a little bit smaller inside, and the wheel itself is smaller, which will help it spool a little bit quicker. There's sacrifices to be made. Obviously, with the bigger turbine wheel, it helps flow and will make more horsepower. However, I'm not really shooting for the moon on this thing. If it makes 500 to 600, really, if it makes over 500 wheel on pump gas, that's kind of the real goal. but it should still make 600 wheel with this turbo if we run some ethanol in it. So we'll see when we get there. Again, I have a few turbos on the shelf to test out if I'm not happy with it. I did build the kit essentially with a GT 3076 sized turbo, so that would be kind of similar to between a G660 or a G770. We'll have a few options. The turbo setup and the downpipe and the way all that's going to work is going to be very similar between them. So we'll have a few turbo options listed on the website to be able to select from once we get that up there. So the next thing really is the wastegate. I have an old tile from one of my other setups. I'm not going to put it on now because it obviously hits the pin that I'm using on the engine stand. But the wastegate's going to sit like this, and it looks kind of crazy that it sits way back like that, but it does fit the car. Obviously, we've had this all in the car already. So now we're kind of getting to the end of this build for the engine side of things. There are a few more things that I got to do, main seal and the trigger wheel, a bunch of stuff, but for the engine part of things, we're mostly done. Oh, I should show you what I printed out for this thing. Give me a second. So when I envisioned doing this project years ago, I had planned on trying somehow to make a plate here that either said like Golf, RS, or something to, you know, kind of indicate, obviously it's a Golf, it's not an Audi, which this usually would come with an Audi. I think it said, I think it had the Audi symbol factory and then TFSI, I think, written up here. I wanted to say Golf RS or something like that to kind of indicate what was in the car. And years ago when I started dreaming this up, 3D printing really wasn't nearly as popular and as mainstream as it is now, and as good as it is now. So I designed something in Fusion, of course, and this is just the first iteration of that. But of course, after I did it, I made it too short. That's the problem with taking pictures of things and trying to model them. It's kind of why I need a 3D scanner. So if there's any 3D scanning companies out there that want to hook a brother up, please do so. So I did another rendition, and this is, again, it's not going to be printed out of this material. This is just PLA to start with for fitment, but it fits great now all around. And then I did the logos as well. I did them to stand off. Now I've kind of been messing with these ones and had them soaked in acetone and kind of screwed them up a bit so they look a little bit odd right now, but I'll get this in here in a second. So my goal is to try to make this look as factory as possible. I still need to do some modifications to the RS logo on the outer trim. I'm getting nitpicky here, but it should be chrome on the outer trim and then red on the inside. And then the Volkswagen symbol, I already started messing around with some to make this stuff chrome so that in the end it's all going to look kind of factory. So this will be painted shiny black. Again, it's going to be printed at a different material. And then the logos, as you can see from that angle, it almost looks factory. So you get the gist of what I'm trying to accomplish here. Pretty cool what we can do with 3D printing. Again, this is just a small, stupid detail aspect of it, but it's going to make a difference once that's shiny and the red, and this is the way it's supposed to look. I just spit all over the phone. I'm filming this whole video on my cell phone this time just to try something different, make it easy for me to grab my phone out of my pocket. Hopefully the audio is not completely trash on this one, but that kind of sums up what we're looking at here for the 07K big turbo build, built engine, and our turbo kit. Let's get to wrapping this up. And there it is with some coil packs in it. Did that for the thumbnail. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. I did ramble a lot in this video, and I do apologize, but to talk about the turbo kit and everything, there's a lot involved with doing all this. There's a lot obviously with building these engines and doing turbo kits and stuff like that in general. But if you guys have any questions or comments about this video or any of the other projects, this one again is coming up soon. Really hope to make some good power with this one. I know I've rambled on about that one a bunch. And then this other Mark 6 that we're doing the all-wheel drive stuff in. I don't know if we'll have too much more on that one for video content, but we've been working on the drag car, working on lots of other stuff, working on my car. If you have any questions, let us know. Thanks for all the support, guys. We'll see you in the next video. It's almost racing season. I can't wait to get the drag car back to